Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Zach here. This past week, a story snuck through in the media. It wasn't reported on until days after it already happened. Last Monday, September 18th, 2017, the United States of America opened its first military base in Israel. And I want to show you what's so interesting about this. The date it opened, September 18th, 2017, is a date with numerology of 44. September 18th, 17, date with 44 numerology, also a date with 64 numerology. And in the language of Gematria, Israel has Gematria of 44 and 64. Using Hebrew, the official language of Israel. If you don't know, Hebrew is the only alphabet in the world that was considered dead until Israel came back into being. Then it was restored as a national language. That's never happened with any other language in the history of the world. Typically, when a language dies, it stays dead. Anyhow, Israel in Hebrew, 64, just like it is in English. Notice also American is 64, the first American permanent military base in Israel on this date with 44 and 64 numerology. And by the way, militaries have one true purpose, and that is to kill, a word with 44 and 64 gematria as well. Notice the 28, also relevant to Israel. So, established on this date with 44 and 64 numerology, I want to remind you about Mr. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. His name, Benjamin Netanyahu in Hebrew, look at what it sums to, 44. The name Netanyahu alone in English also sums to 44. My channel was deleted this past June. I had a video when this was a brand new story and talked about the significance of 44 and military in Israel and the United States of America. It was a big national news story that Netanyahu paused for 44 seconds at the United Nations. A lot of news headlines at the time about this. This emphasis on the number of seconds he remained silent while speaking at the UN. Of course, they didn't teach you about the gematria or the significance of this number. And in case you don't know what Israel is, it is the biggest aggressor nation to other nations in terms of militarism. The only person that even compares or nation that compares is the United States of America. And of course, America pays for Israel's military, especially their air force, which they do so much damage with to their neighbors. The United States of America and Israel, since the time of the Geneva Conventions, are the two biggest violators of those conventions. And here they are coming together in this military feat by the numbers. In case you're new here, what we're talking about, this numerical code, this is part of Kabbalah, ancient mysticism that's now part of Jewish culture. Everything the United States of America does, Israel does, the New World Order does, is by this code. If you've ever heard the term the Cabal, the secret political faction, it's derived from Kabbalah, the belief that God created the world with language by merging the letter with the number. The people who run the world are Kabbalists. So also, this date that they created the base, September 18th, not only does it have this 44-64 coding, but September 18th is the day that leaves 104 days left in the year. Remember, Jerusalem has a gematria of 104, like 10-4 message received. Notice the gematria of 139 as well, and 32. Jerusalem and America both also sum to 32 and 139. There's 32 paths in Kabbalah, 139 number of Freemasonry, based in Kabbalah, based in this mysticism that's very important to Jewish culture. If you write Jewish state, which Israel is, also 139, But with regards to America, which shares this gematria of 139, just like Freemasonry is 139, Coming back to the 10-4 for Jerusalem as well, the date of establishment for this nation, July 4th, 1776, date with 104 numerology. On September 11th, the Twin Towers, 104, came crumbling down. You know, as Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage told us they would in 1989. All part of the mocking. The new One World Trade Center is 104 stories tall. In history, there was the destruction of the two temples of Jerusalem. The two temples in Jerusalem, 104. Twin Towers, 104. The destruction of the two towers. In Jewish gematria, I'll just show you this. Just put it up here real quick. Using the Jewish cipher, Tisha B'Av, the Jewish day to remember the destruction of the two temples, it sums to 911. You see that? 911. And remember this number 134. We're going to talk about that. And we also already talked about how Kill in Israel's 28. See how nicely this all comes together? I want to show you something else about Netanyahu's name real quick. Notice Netanyahu sums to 134 like Tisha B'Av as well. Tisha B'Av is known as the 9th of Av. 9th of Av also sums to 134. That's the English pronunciation. Make America Great Again, Donald Trump's slogan, also 134. How perfect. And they're calling Donald Trump the first Jewish president. This year he was in Israel for Jerusalem Day, Donald Trump, meeting with Netanyahu on Jerusalem Day. You see this? Benjamin Netanyahu, his name gematria, also 93. I've been explaining way before, since we even understood reverse gematria, how 93 is the number that has guided Israel's history. And even in the headlines, building on strong bond, U.S. opens first ever permanent military base in Israel. Strong is a word with that gematria of 93. Israel was drawn up on it as a nation September 3rd, 1947. Remember, 93 represents the number Saturn, the keeper of time. Time 47, Saturn 93. Israel drawn up September 3rd, 47. You can also write that date 3/9, like the 39 books of the Old Testament, which the Jewish faith goes by. This year, September 29th. Speaking of which, you guys, you got to know this. This stuff's essential. United States of America in Jewish gematria sums to 929. There's 929 chapters in the Old Testament. That's 39 books. September 29th leaves 93 days left in the year. This year, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the most important day on the Jewish calendar. This year it falls on September 29th. Notice Yom Kippur has the gematria of 144 as well as 54. Remember, it's on the day that leaves 93 days left in the year. The word sun has gematria of 54. The sun is 93 million miles away. Also, time. The sun measures time. Saturn's the keeper of time. Saturn equals 93. The sun's 93 million miles away. Yom Kippur has that gematria of 144 like time. The way the numbers come together for Yom Kippur this year, my eyes are open, and I've been talking about this date on the radio show, my blog, videos, for months now. So remember, September 29th. I think we're going to see something interesting within that period of time, possibly the day before, the day after. Remember those dates, though. These false flags that we see in the ritual or in the world that are rituals that build the police state, they're all done by the code we're revealing here. And these are signs. These are signs that something big's on the horizon. The first permanent military base in Israel by the numbers, while Trump's the president. Speaking of which, let me write out Jerusalem real quick. Jerusalem has this gematria of 58. Jerusalem Day gematria of 44 and 134. Donald Trump is the winner of the 58th U.S. presidential election. He was in Jerusalem for Jerusalem Day by the numbers. Let me just see if I can pull up some quick information on my blog. I had a number of posts on it. You spend time on my blog, use the search. Sometimes you got to be creative in what you search for. This Manchester bombing that happened this year where the UK was really building their police state, that was going on while Trump was in Israel. Then he was at the Vatican. He visited the Western Wall, if I recall, while Trump was down there. I wish the channel was still up. Yeah, Trump was speaking from Israel about how we have to obliterate ISIS, which truly stands for Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. Just how fake the headlines are, you know. ISIS claims responsibility. Who does something and then claims responsibility? It's just such obvious fake propaganda. It's your military, your police, your news, your government carrying this out and creating the fake Islamic boogeyman. Notice that headline, how it connected back to 58. This is why Trump was in Jerusalem. That's right, then James Bond died, who had the connection to the Ariana Grande song that was playing when the terror attack happened. All these riddles. Anyway, if you go through my blog, Truth Seeker, you'll get to the posts about Trump and Israel for Jerusalem Day, plus everything that was going on down there. May 23rd, 23/5, that's like 23.5, the number of degrees on the Freemason compass that's based in Kabbalah. You see? It's the 143rd day of the year. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equals 143. And by the way, with regards to all this 44, remember, I've been documenting everything about Trump's administration is 44. The head of the military is Mad Dog 44. His last name is Mattis 44. Mad Dog Mattis, 44-year veteran of the Marines. He's the Secretary of Defense, which has gematria of 193, which is the 44th prime. The first person Trump brought to his administration was Reince Priebus at 44 years old. A number of people he hired were 44 when they came into the administration. Nikki Haley. This is all symbolic. I've been explaining this the whole time, and now this military base, you see? The evidence just builds. By the way, that Ariana Grande false flag date with 44 and 64 numerology while Trump was in Israel for Jerusalem Day. So go through the blog. There's a lot of information here. I want to go back. I want to say it was the Western Wall he was visiting. Yeah, it was. That's exactly what it was. Trump visited the Western Wall, 44 and 64. You know, just like Israel, just like Kill. He visited the Western Wall on Jerusalem Day. Another 44, you see? And notice the 134, Trump's slogan, Make America Great Again, which is really Make America Hate Again. 134, also 404, like the number of verses in Revelation. Told you guys from the beginning, Trump being the 45th, it's a bad sign. This is a biblical number. We're living out a biblical, contrived, Kabbalistic prophecy. And it's very clear who's in control of it. You know, there's a reason we send $10 million a day to Israel to fund their very terrorist-like military that truly does terrorize their neighbors and gets away with it. Hardly even makes headlines about it. I'll link all these posts below. Make sure you get all this information. You know, from Hebrew to English, there's a lot of overlap. Kabbalah sums to the same thing in Hebrew as it does in English. Israel, God, number of things. This is what it's all about. Playing God. 64 spaces on the chessboard. Until next time, True Seekers.